Alrighty then. There we go. Alright. Hey Paul. Got one Paul in the chat. This is the very first time I stream on YouTube. So I think I have everything set up nicely. Hey Paul, if you're there, can you give me a thumbs up if you hear my guitar and my voice? Thank you, Björn, for the feedback. All right, so I guess you can hear me. All right, so I'm gonna talk about Scorched Quadrant. So let me start with just jamming over it for a bit and see what happens, and then I can talk a little bit about what I'm doing. Alright, so a reason why I'm doing this little video is that I'm currently doing a solo contest together with guitarmessenger.com. We are putting up 3 different backing tracks, and you can choose which one you want, all from the new Symmetry album, the Singularity Phase 2, Cenotaph. And we're doing the solo contest to commemorate the re-release of my instructional guitar course, Scar Guitar. We put it out 10 years ago on DVD, and now we're launching it as an online instructional course. guitarmessenger.com, that's where you find it. Yeah, so if you want to get in on the contest, download one of the tracks, choose your favorite one. I'm going to talk about Scorched Quadrant today. Record a solo, you can improvise, you can compose, and it can be on any instrument, so it doesn't need to be on a guitar. And send it to us and follow the instructions, and you can win some stuff from Neural DSP, Lundgren Guitar Pickups, a goodie bag from Strandberg, some Symmetry merchandise, and even a lesson or hang with me. So that's where it's at. So let's get down to it. Scorched Quadrant. The chords that I use, it's in B. This is a favorite chord voicing of mine. So what we got here is it's almost like a, well, it's not almost like, it is like a polychord, because it's got two different triads. We got here a B major triad, but on top I have a F sharp major triad. So together they form a B major ninth chord. It's really lush and nice. And then I just transpose it. So I do it down here, and I consider G to be the root of that. Same thing, but then it ends on. In this case, I don't use that top note, so we can disregard that when thinking of what kind of scales we want to use. So, and at the very end of it, so this is like a, this is like an E major chord. So the most like, shit, sorry, lost my lights. There we go. Right. Okay, back to it. So, for the major chord, I like to play just the major scale. That is like the most basic scale to use over that chord. There's nothing super fancy about it. It sounds really nice. And then for this for me would be G Lydian or B minor. So what we got is we go from B major to B minor and back again. And that's kind of neat to think of it as the same, like being the same key, having the same root note. And I mean the chord also, like the bass, the rhythm implies, since it is a B in the bottom. So it also means that when you play over the G major and it changes to minor, you can use those common notes in the two scales. Yeah, to create some interesting lines. And when it goes to this, for me that is still B minor. And at the end, when it goes up to an E major, for me that's like an E mixed Lydian. Or if you think of B as being the root, it's B Dorian. So you got B major, B minor, and B Dorian. So 3 different scales to think about. So I'm going to improvise a little bit, only using those scales and nothing fancy. And then I'm going to talk about some more fancy stuff. B major, minor, major, minor, that's a way you can practice it if you want to. Like run the scale up and down and yeah. And then if you want to use a little bit more exotic things, you can, instead of using major there, you could use Lydian. And then on that chord, you still use B minor, which is G Lydian. So you can think of it as being like going from B Lydian to G Lydian. And on the A chord, you could even think A Lydian. And for this chord, I would stay to B Dorian or E Mixolydian. For me, yeah, I mean, you could try using Lydian there as well. Maybe I'll try that now. I'll do an improvisation, doing only Lydian on all the chords, and you can see what that sounds like. Yeah, that works. Yeah, so that's kind of neat. I really like that sound. It's like everything sounds extra bright. So, and the next step is from that is to think about like the extensions of the chords, like the upper structure. If you think of like a B major ninth, if you keep stacking the thirds in the chord. So, which means that you could, on top of B major, you can stack a C sharp major triad, and on the A, on the G, you can have an A major triad, and yeah, and so on. So, let's see what that sounds like if I only play those triads. So there's a really nice sound. For me, that sounds super smooth and super nice, and it feels so at home, but still very out there. But there's no notes that I'm struggling with. I think everything sounds really nice. And next step is to not only play the triads, but play more in a scalar fashion. But using, instead of over the B, instead of doing like resolving the phrases around B, because if you think in B minor major, you probably want to go back to the B major triad. But if you like imagining that C sharp major would be also the tonal center, even though it's B. So you can think of this to be C sharp Mixolydian, and for G Lydian, you think it's A Mixolydian. That's a cool way of thinking about it. So I'm gonna give that a shot, and you can see what that sounds like. Right? right. Yeah, so that's another way to think about it. I see in the chat someone ask about mixer Lydian flat 6, and I don't think that really works too well in this context, because there's not a lot of room to, because the chord that is being played is using so many of the notes in the scale. So if you just make something flat or sharp, chances are it's gonna sound really out. But you can certainly try it for yourself and see what you think about it. All right, so there's a second part of the solo on the album. It's Benjamin's solo, where it goes to this riff. And for me, that sound is C sharp minor to C major, and I hear that as being C sharp minor and C Lydian. So yeah, what I like to do is go in between those scales, and this is what that sounds like. All right, let's see. Yeah, and you could do some stuff like superimpose some stuff, I suppose. So C sharp minor, you could do a B major chord, and all right, so C Lydian, you can do G. So let's see what that sounds like. Whoops, come again. So that's kind of nice, and you could you can turn those into pentatonic scales. So you do B major pentatonic and G major pentatonic. So let's try that and see what it sounds like. Yeah, and I think that's about all the stuff that I would use in this scenario. And of course, there's all kind of chromatic concepts and stuff that you could potentially do over any of these things. So that's it. Let me just improvise over the whole thing a few times over and over, and use some of these ideas, and I think that'll be the end of this live stream. Thanks for hanging with me. So let me jam for a bit. All right. Håller på och streamar.
Du?
Ja, jag satt och spelade. Och jag har alla mina kompisar i hela världen. Ska du säga hej till dem? Du kan säga hej här.
Hej! Hej!
All right, you guys. It's bedtime soon, so I've had some family stuff to take care of. Thank you for hanging with me on this very, very first maiden voyage live stream on YouTube. And yeah, you can see I don't have the an amazing setup. I have an old century-old webcam, and yeah, some lighting, poor lighting, a messy room. Got my Line 6 Catalyst over there. Got my Nord Stage over there, and my acoustic guitar, and some rubbish. So yeah, that's it for this time. Much love, everyone, and hope you're doing well. See you next time.